Hi everyone, Richard here from Mammoth Journeys. Today we're going to be looking at the Apidura backcountry frame bag. We're going to look through its features and ultimately decide if it's any good. Let's get into it. To start with, let's go through why you'd want a frame bag versus other luggage options, how you measure your bike up for a frame bag, and the decision on which brand to go with. If none of these are of any interest to you, just use the chapters in the description to skip ahead. So firstly, let's understand why I needed a frame bag. A few years ago, I was doing a cycle to Germany where I needed to carry some kit. Now I've used panniers in the past and they've been ace and they certainly have their place. But for this trip, I wasn't carrying that much equipment and I really didn't want the aero drag of two panniers stuck on the side. So I opted for a frame bag that's a little bit smaller, tucked close to the frame to help reduce that aero drag and improve the handling. And for me, it was the right choice for that trip. When searching for a brand, there was two reasons that I went to Apidura. The first one was a friend of mine was doing the transcontinental race at the time, which is a long bike packing trip across Europe. And he had the setup that I ultimately wanted for my Germany ride. And he recommended Apidura because he was using them. And Apidura's reputation in the bike packing world is quite high. A lot of people are using them. And I thought, well, if that many people are, they must be pretty good. I did look at some other brands like Ortlieb, Vowed and Restrap. But because I had a recommendation from a friend, which I valued, I went for Apidura. When I looked at the price, I was surprised how expensive they are. It was quite expensive for not a lot of bag and not a lot of technology. I compare that to bags I've bought in the past with Osprey, and you seem to get a lot more value for money. However, I still went through with it because I thought, well, they've got a good reputation for having high quality. If I spend a bit more now, it means I'll have the bag for longer and it will last. And so far, that seems to be coming true. So once you've decided if you need a frame bag, you've decided on the make, the next thing you're going to have to consider is what size to go for. Now the important measurement here is your top tube length. Some websites, including Apidura, have a cool little function where you can put your make and model of your bike and it'll tell you which bags, sizes you need, which is pretty cool. However, you probably want to think a little bit ahead in the future as well in case you change bikes or you've got multiple bikes that the bag needs to go on. So when I picked this bag, this is a 4.5 litre compact, I was riding a Gestalt, had a slightly smaller top tube and it also had a smaller head tube here. So I wasn't able to go for the bigger size. If you're on a touring bike or the Nicasio here, which has got a bigger head tube, I could have definitely gotten away with a slightly bigger bag. However, I also use this on my mountain bike, which has a really small head tube and an even smaller top tube size, so it just about fits in, but if I'd gone for the bigger size it certainly wouldn't have fit. So it's just something to think about. If you are on the cusp of sizes or in between two, perhaps go for the smaller and it gives you that little bit of wiggle room. Obviously if you've got a big trip planned and you're going to be using the bag lots for this one particular trip, then get it specifically for that bike. But if you're in a habit of changing bikes fairly frequently or got a number of bikes that you want to use it on, think about that and make sure that it can fit all of them. So now you've understood why I've picked this bag, let's go through its functions and actually decide if it's any good. So let's start on the outside with the material, which is a 4-layer laminate fabric, which was initially developed for the maritime industry. It is resistant to tears and it is lightweight and it is strong, which is great. The seams, however, are stitched, they're not seam sealed, which means that they're a bit of a risk for any leakage from water. They do recommend putting your stuff in dry bags. I do that anyway to compartmentalize my kit, but it is a bit of a faff and sometimes it's not very practical. The newer models are seam sealed, which means they have a higher level of waterproofness, so that's a bit of a benefit. Overall, I've been really happy with how tough it's been. I've dropped it in bushes, against walls, whatever you happen to do while you're bike packing, and it's stood up to stand the test, which is good, and I've not had any breakages. Another cool feature on the outside is the reflective material, which is super helpful if you're riding at night. I know Apidura are quite popular with those ultra cyclists who do crazy long days, so if you are riding at night, it is an added benefit because it helps keep you nice and safe. Last few things on the outside is firstly how it's strapped to the bike. So you've got these 3 Velcro straps at the top and you've got these 3 other straps going on your seat tube, down tube and your head tube. And they work, they keep it nice and secure, it doesn't jiggle around and it's really solid, which is ace. The things that aren't so great is these ones, the smaller ones, are really fiddly. So the buckles are quite small and the straps are quite small. So if you've got gloves on or if you've got cold hands, it's just really fiddly. Even if you haven't got cold hands and you haven't got gloves on, it's still fiddly. They also have these elastic bits on the strap so that you can tuck away the loose end, which is really helpful. But this elastic bit isn't stitched on, so it means, or secured in any way, so that it just falls off. I've lost 2 since I've owned the bag. Now, it doesn't affect the function, it just makes it a little bit annoying. You have a bit of a flappy bit of strap when you're riding, but it just seems a bit odd. I feel like they could have made that a lot more practical and a lot easier to use. The other thing that is quite annoying is these Velcro straps don't move. So if for whatever reason on your bike you have something that gets in the way, you can't get it on as easy. I had a little bag on the top tube that I used for a recent trip. Unfortunately, the strap got in the way of that as well, so I couldn't actually strap the top of the top tube bag on as well. So they're a little bit impractical, and I feel they could have done better, and other companies do it better, and I don't really understand why they haven't made it more practical. One thing they do well, however, is the toggle and the zips. So they're nice and easy to use, even with gloves on, even with cold hands, and they're really good quality, so that when you are trying to jam loads of stuff in, it's really tight and you're worried it's going to split, it stays solid and it doesn't show any sort of poor quality. So that's really good, but the straps attaching it to the bike, I feel could be a bit better. Moving on now to the inside of the bag. So the inside is split into 2 compartments. You've got a bigger compartment and a smaller compartment with a zip on each side, so it's nice and easy to get in. The divider on the inside is designed as such where actually if you just wanted one big compartment, you don't lose any space, which is really helpful. On the inside of that big compartment as well is a nice little secure zip, so you can put any like an emergency card, emergency cash, or anything important that you don't want to lose, which is really helpful. From a performance side of things, the bag does really well. It's real tough and solid. For those who've watched videos of mine in the past, robustness is a real important quality for me with kit. I need to know that I can trust it when I go out on a trip, and that I'm not going to have to replace it or repair it halfway around. So for that, it really does tick the box. The reflective detail on the outside as well is just a lovely added safety feature. I do feel that they could have done better with the attachments onto the bike. However, it does work and does keep it secure, so I guess it is fit for purpose. If you are happy with the price tag and that doesn't put you off, then go for it. I would recommend it, and I do think it is good. However, if the price tag is a bit too far out of your comfort zone, there are other brands and other makes and models that you can look at. One particular would be the Podsacs from Planet X. I've used their saddlebag and I'll do a review on that soon, but the value for money on that is amazing. It's such a good quality bag for about half the price. So I'd really look at that if the price is a bit of an issue. If it's not, go for it. It'll be absolutely great. And with the newer models seam sealed, the waterproofness is even better quality. I hope you enjoyed the review. If I didn't answer any questions, or you've got any more questions, stick them in the comments below and I'll try and get back to you and try and answer them. And if I don't know, hopefully someone else will. If you've enjoyed the video, hit subscribe and you get to see some more kit reviews, some more trips we've done, and ultimately all the fun things about cycling. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll speak to you soon.